Okay, so we're now into week 5. It just seems to keep on going, doesn't it? Now, I want to first just kind of go over just some basic housekeeping pieces, and we're going to go over the module and just kind of what to expect, and then talk a little bit about some couple changes I'm going to make when it comes to our quizzes and our exams, and then the following video I'll go into some more detail about the content of the lecture, about what to focus your study on, and some general ideas here. So let's first start with an overview of what to expect this week when it comes to your module. All right, so this should be when you open up your Canvas, the student view here. So you should now see that week 5 module, Civil Liberties, is now open and available. Make sure that you have completed all your work in module 4 in order to unlock module 5. If for some reason that module is locked, you didn't get an assignment in or something to that nature, please reach out to me and I will see what I can do to unlock it and give you an extension if necessary, and I'll work with you. Please keep in mind that if there are any issues, technology issues, connectivity issues, life issues, that you reach out to me early. It's better to let me know way ahead of time than after the fact, or 10:50 the night that it's due. So please reach out to me early, email, message me on Canvas. I also ask that if you message me on Canvas, then I send you a message back. Please send me a response just letting me know that you acknowledged it. So if you've reached out to me and had some questions, I sent some responses, but I haven't heard from you, and it's real important online that we have active communication. So the goal is to try to get back to you within 24 hours, a couple hours if at all possible, but please make sure that you're actively communicating with me. Jump into my office hours too, and we can have a quick chat if need be. But as always, please reach out to me. Now, when we go into expectations for this week, again, you can access your module. Either you can access it through the homepage if you would like, or you can access it through the modules tab, as always. All right, so when you jump in, again, you're going to need to work through these through sequential order, so please start with the summary. You'll see there will be a video here with the overview of the lecture and content, the lecture slides. This chapter focuses on 4 key areas. The first, defining what are civil liberties. It's important to know what the difference is between civil liberties and civil rights. So civil liberties protect the citizens from intrusion from the government directly. So there are limits directly on what the government can and cannot do. And so, for example, you will find that when we talk about the freedom of speech and First Amendment rights, and a lot of that falls the freedom of religion, not having an established national religion, for example, that is actually found within the Bill of Rights, and that moves into the second section here, which talks about securing basic freedoms. So it talks about the first 4 amendments found in the Bill of Rights, and keep in mind the Bill of Rights was a big component of the ratification process. It was part of what the debate between the Federalists and Anti-Federalists, how best to protect the citizens from a potentially oppressive or overpowerful executive office or centralized power. So the Bill of Rights is a very key part of our basic fundamental freedoms. This goes back to that idea that we're under a constitutional government, so that means that the restrictions of powers and limitations of government are derived from a document. The Bill of Rights is one of these documents that really talks about our liberties and talks about the role of government in our lives. So it's important to understand even the basics of these. Now, moving into the other component, which is part of the third part of this chapter, is going to talk about the rights of the accused. We're talking about due process, talking about the protections of search and seizure. We're talking about the rights to a speedy trial, not having excessive bail, those kind of components, and those are all found when you start to look at the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th Amendments. Of course, you'll close out here with interpreting the Bill of Rights. Really, as you'll see as you read through this chapter, when you're interpreting laws, ultimately the court gets involved here. And so this is where we really start to see the power of the Supreme Court. Idea of judicial review, which allows the court to decide if a policy or law is unconstitutional and can strike it down. You'll see that civil liberties and rights have changed and grown depending on the court and the makeup of the Supreme Court justices, their political and personal leanings. That's why it's so important that we do actively scrutinize and debate who is nominated to the Supreme Court, especially because they are lifelong appointees. They will be interpreting these laws multiple times over. So again, we'll go into more detail, but it's important that we kind of take a look at the concepts of what civil liberties are talking about when it comes to the restrictions on what the government can do directly in our lives. The next section here goes into your key terms. It's important. There's going to be several terms here that you may want to check the definitions on. Again, going back to the difference between civil liberties and civil rights. As always, these links will take you back to the chapter so you can, within your textbook, if you're able to verify if necessary. I'm going to leave student view here. Okay, so the next, after you go through that piece, you will jump into your supplemental videos for this week. So you only have a couple. This video will talk about the differences between civil liberties and civil rights. It's going to give you some more contextual detail. And then this video goes into some more detail about freedom of religion, First Amendment rights, and things like that. Once you've completed that portion, you do your TED Talk and supplemental video and some additional videos here for you. I want you to look at to kind of focus around this idea of civil rights, again from the aspect of Native Americans and the interaction between the government and Native populations, and it's still a challenge even today. There was a situation with Standing Rock, talking about pipelines in Native territories, and so it's interesting context here for you to kind of think about as you watch this TED Talk and this video about this situation, to know that even though we are in 2021, the balance of the federal government and its ability to impact citizens and Native Americans and immigration. We're talking about a lot of different concepts here. So keep this in mind when you look through when you're watching these videos. You'll go into, of course, your chapter quiz. So here's where I want to draw your attention to the change I'm making in our course. I think it's important that we do have content quizzes and exams. They are important for accountability, and also to make sure that you are reading and that you're keeping people both accountable and making sure that you're reading the text. But at the same time, the bulk of this course, really, in the skill sets, is about critical analysis and understanding both the content, but also how to participate and how to critically analyze. And so when I'm really looking at the end of the day in your course, is I'm looking at your current events, your discussion posts, and your policy papers are where I'm really concerned about you being very active and concentrating your studies. So not to say that your quizzes aren't important. However, I've decided that there doesn't really need to be a time limit on it. These had been 45 minutes before. However, I think that may have been more of a archaic carryover from in-person teaching. The reality is, for me, it doesn't really matter how much time it takes if you have the week to complete the 10 questions. If you have connectivity issues, challenges, please reach out early. So the big change is, going forward, there will be no longer timing on your quizzes or exams. You will have from the time the module opens until the time it closes, which is about a week, to complete the assignment. So real quick, that being said, you will have, for this week, you will have until February 20th at 11:59 to complete the quiz. Again, it's not timed, but once it closes at 11:59 on the 20th, it will not reopen. It's still 10 questions, each worth 1 point, multiple choice or true and false. You will still be allowed 2 attempts. Just note that the second attempt, your score will be average. And of course, like I said before, it's no longer timed. It's just the exam will close on the 20th at 11:59 and it will not reopen. It means that you must reach out to me or way in advance if there's some sort of issue that you cannot complete it. So again, no longer timed. You have the week to complete it. I want you to be as successful as you possibly can. Just make sure that you have it done before it closes. If any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. You will, once you complete that, you'll go into this week's TED a discussion post, which focuses on civil rights, a discussion and interview with civil rights leader John Lewis, who recently passed away. Although he talks about civil rights, John Lewis has been an advocate for civil rights and civil liberties through his whole career, from the days of when he was working with Martin Luther King. And as you watch this, I want you to think about how that this is a lifelong kind of journey when it comes to civil liberties and civil rights, and it's important to be actively involved, to pay attention to what government's doing, to stand up for what you believe in, to vote, to participate. So it'll be very interested to see what your discussion posts are this week. As always, you are not required to respond to your colleagues. However, if you do, it's highly encouraged. It's important to be civil. This is not Facebook, but engagement is pretty important, especially in this online environment. So if you have any questions, please reach out to me there. And then we will close out this module with your weekly current events. This is our fifth one, so general feedback's about the same. Make sure that it's at least one page, 350 words, that you are citing your sources MLA format. I do not want a link. And make sure that it is a essay style response. It's not bulleted. I don't want that. Where you may be losing points is if it's just a summary, basically a book report. That's not really what I'm looking for. I'm looking for you to give me some reason why you selected this. Now, I'm not necessarily asking you to say this is an example of Fifth Amendment law, policy, or whatever, but I am asking you, there's a lot of news out there. Why did you select that article? What about that applies to you? Does it impact your career? Is it related to somehow to representation, voter rights, to civil liberties, civil rights? What does it impact federalism? I want to see you try. You need to be able to connect this a little bit more, and why it's important can also be, why it's important to you. We all are individuals with different lives, been impacted by law and policies differently. So I want to hear your voice in this ultimately. As if you have any questions, as always, please reach out to me. That will take us through your module for this week. There will be another video that goes a little bit more into the lecture component. However, as always, if you have questions at all, reach out. Like I said, the big change this week and going forward is that I'm no longer going to time your quizzes or your exams you have from the time the module opens till the time it closes. So for this week, make sure that you complete your quiz by the 20th, 11:59. I'm very excited to read your discussion post. I'm looking forward to reading your policy papers. I do want to highly encourage you to attend my office hours or reach out to me if you are struggling in any way with this topic, how to select a topic, how to maybe position it, because again, it's very important that you get this topic soon if you haven't selected it now, and that it's a topic that you can use throughout the rest of the course, because it will be part of your paper number 2 and your video at the end. So with that being said, if there are any questions, please reach out to me, and I hope you have a great week.